Hi, this is Isabel Florence, and you are listening to YouRLight podcast, a safe space where we talk about mental health and well-being. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Today, we have a truly remarkable guest with us, someone whose life journey and work are nothing short of extraordinary. Annie Naqvi is a survivor in every sense of the word. She's faced several near-death experiences, including surviving the 2004 tsunami and battling stage 4 cancer. These profound experiences have not only shaped her outlook on life, but have also fueled her passion for helping others overcome their own struggle. We'll talk about everything from connecting with your intuition to letting go of self-limiting beliefs and the transformative power of meditation. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a conversation that's sure to inspire and challenge you. Let's welcome Annie Naqvi to the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Isabel.
The first question that I usually ask, which I think is going to be quite a long answer for you, is what do you do professionally? What is your passion? And how did you come about getting into what you do now?
So I now work as an executive transformation expert, so coach, mentor, and consultant. I'm also a public speaker and an author and also a corporate trainer as well. And I also have my own podcast too. I got into this work through quite a convoluted journey. It all started from the Asian 2004 tsunami that I survived when almost 250,000 people didn't survive. I was interviewed by Oprah and I said to her that I know that there must be some meaning in having survived, and I need to find out what that meaning is and find out the purpose of my life. It then took me on a journey of looking for that purpose. I was working for an NGO in Iraq. I thought that was my purpose, maybe delivering some programs to people that were being displaced by the war. I came back to the UK and worked for the UK's largest charity as their head of projects, a cancer charity. But then shortly afterwards, I got my own cancer diagnosis. I believe in the mind, body, spirit kind of connection. And so when there is physical disease, it's a combination of various different things, but there's something not quite right in the mind, body, spirit kind of field, basically. So that kind of gave me the message that I still wasn't on the right path. And I kind of then spent the next few years really taking care of my health. I left my work and I used to work as a C-suite level executive as the head of projects back then. And I kind of really just focused on my health and looked at really exploring everything that had happened to me to understand why this disease had come to me at such a young age. I was still in my 30s at the time. And I really didn't want to do chemo, so I kind of just did a lot of holistic therapies and alternative treatments, as well as some conventional treatments. And even though I had a stage 4 diagnosis, I managed to go into remission, and I've been in remission for 10 years since then. So during this time that I had the cancer, whatever I was doing holistically, I decided to train in. Not necessarily to become a practitioner in myself, but for my own sort of knowledge and deepening and healing, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did qualifications in yoga teaching and yoga therapy and meditation and mindfulness and NLP and hypnotherapy and acupuncture, Reiki. I mean, you name it, I did it, kind of thing. At the end of that, I had all of these qualifications and I kind of was not really sure what to do, whether to go back to what I used to do or not. People started to gravitate to me for some advice and support. They knew my story. They knew that I had survived cancer without doing chemo and that I had healed myself. And so I sort of started to support people that were just coming to me that were having some anxiety or some stress related things or that kind of thing. And just giving them, the help with the meditation, mindfulness, yoga, Ayurveda that I'd also studied. One of the times I was supporting somebody, I asked them, if they had spoken to their therapist, and they basically said to me that I'd been more supportive and helpful than their therapist had been. So that kind of gave me a light bulb moment of, okay, of course, you've been through all of these things, you've survived all of these things. It makes sense that you would use all of that to support people, with their challenges going forward. And that's when I kind of decided to go into coaching. And then I realized after a couple of years that I really loved working with the same types of people that, I had been. So I kind of then niched into the sort of executive coaching market. And I've been working as an executive transformation expert because I transformed my own life, transformed from sickness to health, transformed from depression to joy. I did it all myself. I had like multiple near-death experiences, and I managed to kind of come out of all of that, and and be healed and happy at the end of it. So that's what I help my clients. What I really work with them on is helping them to increase their performance and productivity and self-care as well, whilst they're
Mm-hmm.
to reduce burnout. So, but C-suite executives and senior executive CEOs, they're usually very, very busy. And, I help them identify their self-sabotaging behaviors and self-sabotaging beliefs so that I can help them get to be even more kind of productive, but using less time. Yeah. So yeah, so it was a very long answer to your question there, but
Yeah,
it's a difficult one to answer quickly.
of course, it's a very complex, rich story with a lot of lessons woven into it. It's really, really amazing. You are clearly someone extremely resilient from everything that you've been through. What are the things that you feel are the biggest lessons that you've learned from all of these experiences that must have been really, really difficult?
The main lessons I would say that I learnt are these. Every challenge and adversity is an opportunity for our growth. Okay. I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So, I like to reframe that life is happening for you, not to you. And so every experience that is coming to you, your soul is kind of manifested in a way. You have manifested it. It's there to kind of help you learn, grow, to help you remember who we truly are. We're all divine spiritual beings. We
Mm,
know everything already. We are already amazing and, perfect as we are, but we forget that when we come down as humans in our ego form. And also, often we find our greatest strengths in our darkest hours.
yeah.
And of course, you're not finding it straight away. Don't get me wrong. 10, 15 years ago, when I was struggling with cancer, I was not enlightened like I am now. I was very, very often in my survival brain, in my primitive brain, worried about when I was going to die, how long I was going to live, all of those normal fears that we have. But obviously, when I came out of it, I look back at all of the experiences, including the tsunami and including other near-death experiences that I've had, as sort of blessings in disguise. And I've grown a lot from those. I think it's called post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
And having died for a few seconds, I also realized in that moment how nothing that really happens to us in our physical form, none of it matters in a way because it's not real.
I've interviewed people before who had near-death experiences, and they all had some form of spiritual connection or awakening, some form of wisdom brought to them that transformed the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I realized is it doesn't matter what happens to you physically in this world,
Mm.
because you still exist, even if your body is died. Your consciousness, your spirit, your soul, whatever your name is for it, is
Yeah.
still there. It's still present. And that the body just kind of like, it's almost an illusion in a way. So that realization that nothing and no one can really hurt you,
Mm.
body. I mean, of course, when you go back into your ego self, your normal fears come back, right? Of course, you'll get scared about various different things. But whenever I'm feeling something that I need to just kind of tap into that spiritual side, that I just remind myself of that. And I'm just like, okay, well, that this isn't the end. It's just another portal to another dimension or whatever it is, right?
So I guess it's not just the ending of the feeling or the emotion or the fear, but it's the awareness of that fear being connected to the ego rather than actually being connected to the reality.
yeah, as spiritual beings, as I said, we know everything. We're already divine. We're already perfect. We're already part of one consciousness, right? So we are all one, where there is no separation, But as humans, we like to separate a lot, right? We can see it all around the world at the moment, by race, by color, by sexual orientation, by all sorts of different things. So when we're born, what happens is we have two parts of the brain. We've got the survival brain, the primitive brain, the lizard brain, and we've got the sort of consciousness part of the brain. Okay, so they're two different parts of the brain. That survival brain is only concerned with your survival. It has no interest in you living your best life.
Mm.
There to protect you and to keep you alive. We all have a negativity bias. We all focus on the negative stuff more than we do on the positive.
As a protection method.
Came from our ancestors, right? Our ancestors to know which was the poisonous snake more than they needed to know which was the pretty butterfly.
Yeah.
So that's why our evolution has been that we focus on the one or two negative things that happen in the week rather than all of the positive things that are going on a daily basis. So what happens when we're in our ego self is that primitive brain tends to dominate, and that negativity bias, and you can kind of see it around the world, right? All the negative emotions exist in that part of the brain and with our saboteurs, right? And we've got a number of different saboteurs. We've got 10 different saboteurs, the judge being the master saboteur. So
Mm.
the judge of ourselves, the judge of others, and the judge of circumstances and situations. But if you have a much more sort of different approach and you're like, okay, there is no good or bad, this is why I think Jesus said, he who is without sin casts the first stone, because everybody's made a mistake in their life.
Yeah.
Nobody's fault. And so that's the kind of non-judgmental sort of part of, I take that to be the non-judgmental part of Christianity, really. But yeah, that's why, that survival brain, that ego brain, it does kind of tend to dominate unless you work on making your consciousness part of your brain stronger. And that requires, daily sort of regular mental fitness practice.
You go through these like really transformative experiences. You have a new insight over your life and how things work. Is it natural that you slowly go back to unlearning those lessons and those bad habits kind of creep in of maybe self-sabotage? Or were there lessons that just stayed with you till now?
Look, there are lessons that you learn along the way. However, everyone's brain will default to the primitive brain if you're not working on activating the other part of your brain, right? A regular meditation practice, or mental fitness exercises, whatever you want to call it, it helps you to keep charging up into your thriving part of the brain. And if you don't do that for a long period of time, you would naturally default back into the survival brain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With the benefit of hindsight, I've been able to look back and think, okay, what did I learn from these experiences? Until I really got involved in that meditation. I've been doing meditation for 15 years or so, but and I did do a 10-day in a Buddhist monastery back in 2012, but I still had active cancer at that time. So I found that very challenging because I realized every other thought that I was having was about dying, and
Mm.
cancer and what's happening and all that kind of thing. But once I kind of got into that regular habit of doing that 10-day one that I did, that afterwards I really noticed the difference. And that's when I really noticed that my own neuroplasticity had shifted from a very much a survival brain. Obviously, you survived a tsunami. I had other near-death experiences, had various different trauma in my life, various challenges in my life. And then the cancer, 3 recurrences, stage 4. So of course my survival brain was activated. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was peaceful and calm and I was totally stressed out and like
Yeah.
out the whole time, yeah, for that period of sort of around 5 years or so, three to 5 years, I would say. But then after that is when I sort of really started to sort of solidify these practices, and I noticed that change. And I felt the change myself, but I didn't know all the research behind it back then. But
Yeah,
now I
right.
but now I know all the research behind it, and it's really quite simple. We have about up to, let's say, 100,000 thoughts a day. Okay. Most of those are running in your kind of subconscious. Okay. They're running in your autonomic nervous system, and they're running on autopilot. You're having the same thoughts that you had yesterday. Okay. Now, the thing is, as Carl Jung says, until you bring the unconscious into the conscious, it will drive your life and you will call it fate. So you need to start to become very self-aware of what is driving your behaviors, whether it's a saboteur or whether it's your kind of thriving part of the brain. Anytime you're in any negative emotion, you're in your saboteurs. It's a very simple and easy way of understanding. Your emotions are made by filtering through all of your memories and past experiences. So let's say, for example, you had a bully at school that was called Anna. Okay. Every time you might meet another Anna in your future, it may trigger that memory of and that feeling that you had, and you may feel hostility towards a new Anna, for example.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So because your emotions are being made through the filter of all of your past experiences. So this is what I mean, unless you're intervening all the time into that, you are kind of just going to carry on living your life in the same way that you've always lived it, and you're never really kind of growing as much, if you see what I mean.
So using the triggers as kind of like a map to understand what is actually happening in your subconscious and why you are having these reactions that might seem not necessary most of the time.
Exactly.
How do you balance between validating someone's feelings and emotions in a situation and not allowing them to become a victim in their mentality?
Yeah, it's a good point. So I will, whenever I'm working with people, I always acknowledge how they're feeling. I hear you, I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate how you're feeling. But then, my job is to ask those questions, to dig deeper. And obviously, the victim is one of the saboteurs. The people pleaser is one. The overachiever is another one. The perfectionist is another one. There's the avoider as well. There's restless. You can kind of see, different people with different kind of different saboteurs. And we do an assessment at the beginning. So it's all kind of on the table up front. And I want to just remind everybody that's listening, you are not your saboteurs. You may think that they are a part of you, but you were not born with them, and you're not taking them with you when you die. Okay. They are formed as part of our evolution in our formative years as a way of surviving childhood. Okay. And every single person in the world has saboteurs, and none of them are better or worse than others. Like a lot of overachievers might say that that's a better one than a victim one, but they're all the same. They're all saboteurs.
Yeah. Would you say they are coping mechanisms?
They're coping mechanisms. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. They are coping mechanisms. They are your strengths until you use them. So controller is one, for example, is a saboteur. But the positive side of a controller is, because I'm a controller, right? Leading, inspiring, taking charge, taking control. They're good at running their own businesses. They tend to be senior leaders. Most senior leaders have got controller in their, CEOs and that kind of thing. There is nothing wrong with any of those things. In fact, it was my controller that happened to help us get out of the tsunami by being able to remember the number of the BBC switchboard, getting in touch with them to get in touch with the British High Commission, who then sent the choppers the next day. I was going around making lists of injured people, and that was all my controller. I took charge. I don't know how, after nearly drowning multiple times, I remembered the number of the BBC switchboard from when I worked there 5 years before. I mean, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's crazy.
But the brain, again, the brain that gives you the information that you need in those times. The bridge had been wiped out by one of the tsunamis. We had 7 where we were. So we were completely stranded on this remote peninsula on the east coast of Sri Lanka. My controller helped in that situation to get us all airlifted to safety. I got everyone else onto the choppers first and took the last chopper out on the second day. So, they're not all bad. I want people to understand. But at the same time, when you overuse them, and I'm micromanaging my team or I'm micromanaging my husband, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah.
then that's when it becomes an issue. Yeah. So you don't want to be kind of going right down into the you only can take control. You have to then go with the flow and surrender at the same time.
It takes a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness, doesn't it? To also understand in the relationships of your life, most of these things show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the wisdom that I have got now is as a direct result of all of the experiences that I've had in my life, all of the knowledge that I've gained, all of the qualifications that I've done, but mostly through my personal experiences, right? When you've had to live through and overcome these big challenges, multiple near-death experiences, multiple cancer diagnoses, there is a level of wisdom that you cannot get unless you've had that lived experience. You can do as many qualifications as you like. You can go to the best coaching schools that you want or whatever. But until you've really experienced those things for yourself and learned the lessons and absorbed them and gained that knowledge and wisdom, all you're really doing is asking questions, which is kind of not what I mean, I do ask questions, but I do a lot more than just asking questions.
Yeah.
So, and also my intuition is very much based on my extensive mental fitness practice that I have, my meditation, my mindfulness.
It's funny that you mention intuition when that's the next thing that I wanted to ask you about is how would you say to other people what is the road towards connecting to their intuition? Because I think in the modern society that we live in right now, it's very easy to become not really embodied or connected, not really trust the wisdom that you speak of.
Stop doing and start being.
Mm,
Human beings, not human doings. We spend our entire time doing something, or if we're not doing something, entertaining ourselves with doing something. You cannot have a relationship with your soul if you're constantly doing. You have to go in, you have to be quiet, you have to sit quietly with yourself. And you have to, meditate. If meditating's not your thing, I always find things that work for my clients based on what their things are, right? But some people it's writing, for example, writing their diary or their journal or whatever, or their morning pages. Some people it's other. It's about having a relationship with yourself and going inwards, and that means no TV, no distractions, nobody else to entertain you, but sitting with yourself and really noticing. You mentioned the body, right? Really noticing what's going on in your body right now.
hmm
Noticing, how your body feels, the heaviness of your body. The mind is the monkey mind, right? So there will be thoughts all the time, all day long, constantly. But the thing is if you take some time out of your day to have some kind of a spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's whatever it is, but it's about going in, listening to yourself. We think that life is about getting a good job and getting married and having kids and having good money and buying a car and buying a house and all of those things, which, I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with any of those things.
It's also understandable that we do believe that because that's the story that we're told our whole lives.
Exactly. We are told this sort of story that that's what we're supposed to be here for. That's not what our lives are really about. The journey here is that spiritual journey. It's that kind of soul development. Okay, it's great if you've got millions of dollars in the bank, or it's great if you've got a house and all that kind of thing. But don't lose sight. That's all the ego desires, right? That's all the kind of material things. Look, you cannot live without the ego when you're in human form. So I'm not bashing ego because it's part of us, right? You have to accept both parts. But at the same time, it's not the be all and end all, right? I work with so many senior executives. They have it all. They've got the money, they've got the cars, they've got the houses, they've got the luxury holiday homes, they've got the family, they've got a very successful multi-million, maybe billion-pound business, but they feel unhappy and dissatisfied and like something is missing. Why? Because those things don't bring you happiness. Those things don't bring you peace, they don't bring you joy, they don't bring you contentment, fulfillment. That is something that even somebody that doesn't have anything, like a little boy living in the slums in Mumbai, can have more joy and contentment and peace than some of the richest people in our world have, because their spiritual journey is different, right? These people don't have anything, they're living in tin shacks on the side of the road, they've got no phones, they've got no TV, they've got no electronics, but they just have the biggest toothless smiles on their faces, and they're genuinely like welcoming and friendly and genuinely kind of like happy with their lives. And
Yeah. How much do you also believe that that happiness is connected to the community that they have and the support that they feel with the people around them?
well, absolutely. I think the problem that we've got in the West is that there's been a real kind of like move away from religion. And I'm not suggesting that I believe in conventional religions necessarily, but that lack of faith and that lack of spirituality, I think makes people feel very rudderless in a way. And I think that those communities do still have some belief and some faith, and they have their communities. They still play on the streets. The kids play together on the streets, all of that kind of thing. So,
And people come together on a weekly basis to pray, to have that faith, to have something that connects them like really deeply.
but they still also have the extended family units over there, yeah? So there is no care homes over there, I don't think,
Yeah.
because it's expected that the family would take care of you when you get older, and which kind of makes sense, right? Because it's a circle of life. When we're babies, our parents take care of us. When they're older, we are potentially supposed to take care of them, right? That's karma. Yeah, it's action and reaction. You reap what you sow. So yeah, I mean, I think that there are many different reasons why that might be the case, but community definitely would be one of them, I would say.
Yeah. You spoke very shortly about the cancer and your decision to not have chemo. And I wanted to know your connection to your intuition with that and the bravery that it must have taken you to make that decision. And how can someone make such a decision or even any other decision in their lives, whether that's leaving their job or moving country, that they know within that's the right decision to make, but they are scared of making such a decision?
For me, it was a real no-brainer right from the beginning. In fact, when I got diagnosed, and this is where I'll give you little pockets of where my intuition has come, right? So one time while I was drowning in the tsunami, I thought I was definitely going to die. I was trapped underneath a falling building, face first in the water and really deep under. And somehow this memory came to me of having had a palm reading many years ago, and the palmist had said, "You're going to have a near-death experience and you're going to survive it." And my intuition, or that memory, or whatever you want to call it, popped up at that time and said, "This is, you're not going to die. This is the near-death experience that palmist told you about."
Wow.
And then just as I thought that whatever was trapping me below moved and shifted and I surfaced once more, again with the number of the BBC switchboard, that came to me intuitively at the time. When the cancer came very soon after being diagnosed, either at the time or whatever, my intuition said to me, this is going to be a 5-year journey because, and I understood from somewhere within myself that whatever the lesson was that the universe was trying to give me, or my soul was trying to give me, whatever you would call it, I wasn't learning it. What you resist persists. I knew that I wasn't learning whatever message was there. And my intuition said to me, this is going to be a 5-year journey and then you're going to be all right. And it was exactly 5 years. And then I've been fine since.
That's crazy.
The other thing that my intuition told me was, it just didn't make sense to me to completely kill my immune system in order to kill the cancer. And I thought to myself, aren't I going to need my immune system in the future? And I was very lucky, and I was with the head of the oncology unit at the Marsden at the time. And I said to him, look, I really don't want to do chemo. Is there any other option for me? And he suggested a pill that I could take, which was a hormone blocking pill. I remember this very clearly because my mother was in the hospital room with me. She'd flown over for the appointment. And she said to him, but what's the difference between her doing chemo versus taking this tablet? And he said to me, percentage wise, statistically, there's barely any difference in it. There's like a couple of percentage in it. And then I said, well, why does everybody just get surgery, radio, and chemo? And he just said to me, he said, look, we have nice guidelines, from the NHS have these guidelines. They're called NICE, NICE guidelines. They're from a body or whatever. And he said that, those guidelines mean that that's the treatment that we have to give to people. And we don't have as much leeway anymore to be able to prescribe for individuals. And I said, well, how come you're not making me do chemo? And he said, because what the patient wants makes a big difference to patient outcomes. Now, if you read books like How Your Mind Can Heal Your Body, or You Are the Placebo, or any of these books that have been written about the placebo effect, a lot of the healing happens in your mind, right? He could have been giving me aspirin, okay, and I might have still healed because I thought it was the pill, right? Your mind is creating your reality all the time. So where your attention goes, your energy flows. So let's say if your attention is focused on all the terrible news in the world, you're going to wake up feeling a little bit crappy. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel upset. Whereas if you're focusing on all the great stuff that's happening in the world, you're going to feel more joy. You're going to feel more peace. You're going to feel more satisfaction, fulfillment, all of those kind of things. But our mind is creating our reality every day. So without us necessarily realizing it. So that's why bringing that unconscious into the conscious really helps you
Hmm.
direct your life in the way that you want it to be directed. A lot of people struggle with intuition because they cannot tell what is intuition versus their saboteur thoughts. And I
Hmm.
say most people, it's their saboteur thoughts that are louder than their intuition until you've done this work on really getting your mental fitness up so that you understand how you can help yourself and in developing the kind of life that you want to live. In order to get in touch with your intuition, we need to go inward. So that means going to yoga where they're not playing music, where you're not going so fast that you lose breath. How the Eastern philosophies have been implemented in the West, they've all gone down the yang route, right? In the sense,
Yeah.
the yang is the sort of go, go, go energy,
Very
right?
productive. Yeah. Yeah.
And the yin is the kind of quietening, the coming in and everything. We don't have nearly enough of that in our lives. And I think that is the real problem because people avoid going in. They don't want to go in because
It's scary.
it's scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
scary. Don't want to see it. I only did it when I was really forced to do it. So, but I'm very passionate about helping people to not have to get to the state that I was in before they start doing that kind of work.
Yeah, it is scary. It transforms your life in a really, really stunning way and your relationships.
It did, and also, surviving that tsunami, like my mission now, for example, is to transform the lives of over 250,000 people. And that is in honor of the same number of people that died in the tsunami. That is my passion, really, to have that positive impact in the world. And it's also real honoring for me to the people that died in the tsunami. It's a lot of survivor guilt, and I would say that I've managed to take that survivor guilt and turn it into a kind of like a real sense of, honoring of those kind of souls so that they're not forgotten anyway because their families will remember them. But I want those souls to know that, I'm doing this in their honor and, because it was so meaningful to me to be saved. I felt so guilty for being saved when, for surviving, basically,
Yeah.
not not being saved, but surviving.
How did you deal with that guilt?
I had a very good psychotherapist that I was seeing when I got back to the UK. We did quite a lot of work and we did some EMDR and all sorts of things like that. I feel inspired to deliver my mission, to make the impact on those 250,000 people. And it's kind of like what gets me out. It's my why of why I do everything. It's my why of why I'm doing this podcast. It's my why of why I do the work that I do, all of the media things that I do, the public speaking that I do, because the more that I can get my message out there as far and wide as I can, that, that even if you're going through a challenging time, please know that you can and will come out of it. Try to look for the gift or the opportunity that is coming to you. It's not going to be like a gift of £1,000 or something like that. It's the gift of patience, or the gift of resilience, or the gift of forgiveness, or the gift of tolerance. It's stuff like that. Those are the gifts that I'm talking about. The growth, the spiritual growth, the self-development stuff.
That's really beautiful. It's a full circle and incredible for you to have that drive from a space that once was painful, you know? Sometimes I believe that the things that bring us the most pain in life can actually build the most transformation.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what I say, that we find our greatest strengths in our darkest hours. And that's why I think when people have really difficult, challenging times, if you can kind of go into that, then, it can really help you to navigate that difficult period of time in your life.
Yeah. When it comes to supporting people in your life that are struggling, whether that's a disease, disease of the body or the mind, whatever it is, what would you say are the best things to do as someone who wants to support someone you love?
Just be there. So let's say, for example, you've got a friend or family member that is does have cancer or illness. One of the things is just be there. Don't try to solution. Don't try to tell them, oh, I've got a friend who had it too. Or the amount of people I heard saying to me, oh yeah, my so and so had blah blah blah. It's like not
Mm.
particularly helpful. Just be there for that person. you know, be supportive, tell them that you hear them, that how do they feel, that kind of thing. Don't try to fix their problems, but you can also ask some gentle probing questions. Um, you know, just be curious with them, right? Be curious with them, be supportive, be empathetic, be loving and accepting. And just that's it really. That's all you can do. Everybody's got to make their own way out of their own mess. You can do whatever you can to support people, but ultimately they are the ones that are doing the work, and they have to have the will there to do the work.
Who would you say was there for you in very difficult moments, and how did they support you through it?
Oh God, my husband. I met my husband 1 month before my cancer diagnosis. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Poor guy. I mean, honestly, sorry. But you see, I feel like that my guardian angel, or he was my guardian angel, or is my guardian angel, was sent to me at that particular time. I met him on a yoga holiday in Greece. He was one of the yoga teachers, and it was literally 4 to 6 weeks before my cancer diagnosis. I already had cancer, but I didn't know that I had cancer. And he shares the same birthday, obviously not the same year as my father, and my father passed away a week after we told him about my cancer diagnosis. It's just such a crazy time. So here I am, just met the love of my life, soulmates. We feel like we've known each other forever, even though we've just met and everything. And then he was actually arrived in London the date that I got my diagnosis. So he was literally the first person that I told. He called me from the airport and he said, "How did it go?" I said, "I'll tell you when you get here." And so he obviously knew from that it wasn't a good result. And he just said, "Okay." He's Italian, so he was like, "Okay, what to do? Okay, these things happen. Everything will be okay." And it was just so matter of fact and quiet and calm about it, that he just really was my rock. And he was a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, also an Ayurvedic person as well. So a lot of the stuff that I learned from him. And he is really the embodiment of a Buddhist monk and a real person. Like, he was embodying non-judgmental kindness, all these sort of things.
Calmness in the chaos that you were living at that point.
Calmness in the chaos, super kind, peaceful,
Mm.
just a rock. He was really my coach, I would say. When I used to say to him, "Why is all this stuff happening to me? Why me?" Like, he said, "Why not you?" And I was like, I looked at him. The first time he said that, I looked at him and was like, and the penny dropped. And I was like, well, why
That's
not?
such a powerful message, isn't it?
Exactly. And there was me, I was in that victim mindset, right? Like, why me? Why me? Poor me? What? So many near-death experiences, such a crappy life. Like, what? How much more is the universe going to throw my direction? And he was just like, why not you? And I was just like, oh, wow. Yeah, I would say he was my number one person. And probably I would say saved my life, because I think if he hadn't have come along at that time, I'm not sure if I would have had the fight in me. I was kind of fed up, really. I was like, cannot deal with this anymore.
I think anyone would be if they were in your position.
But because we were soulmates, and I could feel that immediately, within 3 days, we were like, oh my God, it's like we've been together forever.
Mm.
And that love that unconditional love that I got from him, it gave me an additional reason to live, right? Because I was depressed at the time that I met him, and it was his support that really kind of helped me through it, really.
That's really beautiful, really beautiful. And now you're supporting so many people with their own lives. It's a
And
gorgeous circle.
I've said to him many times, I've said, it's funny because a lot of the stuff I've learned from you, and then obviously I've developed my own things as well, and I've done a lot on my own as well. But I said, it's like you kind of started me off on that, and then I kind of broadcast it to the world. So it's like between us, we're kind of, sort of like, and he's also, he's massage therapist, yoga teacher, he's now training to be an osteopath. So we're both in that service kind of based industry of healing and helping other people, right? So and it's true, because he would never want to kind of do this sort of thing. But
Mm.
I love to talk, as he says, so it's
Mm.
perfect. And he doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have any ego, like, oh, you're taking all my stuff and telling other people.
You're sharing the wisdoms that you both have. That's beautiful.
I think it's all about sharing, and the wisdom now today is my wisdom. I'm talking about like 10 years ago that it was his sort of stuff, but yeah, it's a great partnership in that sense. It enables us to share that wisdom with the world at large and to help other people. So hopefully helping people when they listen to this as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So there's three questions that I usually ask at the end. One question is three things that you're grateful for today.
My husband, we just talked a lot about him, but I am
Yeah.
grateful for him. My health, obviously, I'm grateful for as well. And I am grateful for everything that I have, really, and all the people that I have in my life. I have amazing friends and family that, are there for me, as well as, comfortable lifestyle as well. So I'm grateful for all of that. And I'm grateful for all of my clients as well for enriching my lives, because they bring me so much joy when I'm working with them as well. So I'm grateful for everything that I've got in my life, really. Yeah.
Beautiful. Another one is a book that you would recommend. I don't know if you want to recommend your memoir to
I
the
do want to
listeners.
recommend my memoir. Yes,
Mhm.
thank you. That'd be great. So my memoir, it's not quite out yet, but it will be out soon. It's called Tsunami, The Wave That Saved My Life. And it kind of goes into a lot more depth than I've been able to go into today, and chronicles that kind of journey that I had between the time of the tsunami up until about a year, or even up to now, kind of thing. When it comes out, if you could go buy that for me, that would be amazing, to get my message out far and wide so I can hit that 250,000 people that I need to impact their lives.
Amazing, amazing. And the last thing is how can people find you and work with you if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on, my website is ultimateresultsgroup.com, and you can find me on all on socials, Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. And my handle is just my name, Annie Naqvi, so ANI, and then my surname is NAQVI, and it's Annie.Naqvi on Instagram, I think, and Annie Naqvi on Facebook, and Annie Naqvi on LinkedIn. Send me a message or send me an email at annie@ultimateresultsgroup.com, ANI@ultimateresultsgroup.com, and let's connect. And I'd love to speak with people. Yeah.
Thank you so much for today. It's been really fascinating. It's so wonderful to speak to someone that has been through so much and hasn't really like gone under from it, but over it. You've taken everything that you've been through that has been so difficult and transformed into these beautiful gifts for people and a beautiful goal in life. And I think that's really inspiring. And I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. And I thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Well, I really do genuinely believe that all of these things were sent to me so that I could get this message out into the world. So I kind of see it as, being a bit of a light worker in that sense, that when you've been able to transmute and transform your own darkness into light, then you're able to shine the torch for others as well. And many of us are light workers, and many of us are still in the stages of going through the transformation of the darkness. But you can and will get there. And when you come back into the light, then I hope that you're able to help other people as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. All the links are written down on the show notes, as well as resources for anyone struggling with their mental health. Don't forget to subscribe so you're notified when we release new episodes. Also, feel free to share our podcast with your friends and family. And if you'd like to get involved, explore our content, or support our work, visit our website www.yourlight.earth. That's YOURlight.earth. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at u.r.light. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.